is the way to set tonight's stage. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Jewish Federation of Delaware's 86th annual meeting. My name is Carol Marcus Stape, and I will be your host for this evening. As you may have noticed, I'm standing outside in front of the Crystal Hillel Center at the University of Delaware, home of the Fighting Jewish Blue Hens and one of our JFD beneficiary agencies. Each of tonight's segments, you will find me, like Waldo, standing in front of a different agency that benefits from your generosity. This is our way of highlighting the amazing opportunities your generosity provides and powers in our community. Now tonight, as our evening progresses, I hope you will notice our common thread or theme, powered by you with gratitude. For those of you who already know me, you know our community is what empowers me. You are what empowers me. For those I've yet to meet, this is who I am because you have empowered me. I'm actually a native Delawarean, born and raised in Dover, always proudly identifying as Jewish and looking for a place where I could fit in. Upon moving to Wilmington some 29 years ago, you, the Jewish community, embraced me. You made me feel welcome. You made me feel valued. You are why I have served. As the chair of several Super Sundays and high events, as the chair of our local Women's Philanthropy Division, and I now have the honor of representing you, the women of the Delaware and Brandywine Valley, on the JFNA National Women's Philanthropy Board, along with my sister friends, Michelle Silberglee and Barbara Blumberg. You are why I serve on the JCC Executive Committee and the Board of Directors. And by the way, I also proudly represent you on our JFD board and serve as Russ Silberglee's co-chair for this year's JFD annual campaign. I do it all because I am empowered by you with gratitude. So thank you. Thank you for attending and participating in all of our amazing virtual programs over the past year. Thank you for your outstanding generosity and support of our Federation and our beneficiary agencies. And most of all, thank you for joining us tonight. Now, before I forget, I must remind you all to check your annual impact report, which will be available on the Federation website, shalomdelaware.org, after tonight's program. Why, hello! Can you guess where I am? I'm standing in the beautiful Mahal Sharon courtyard in front of Delaware's only Jewish day school, Albert Einstein Academy, where it gives me great pleasure to introduce the AEA students performing our national anthem, followed by the students from our sister city in Arad, Israel, who will be performing Hatikvah. And last but certainly not least, I am truly honored to introduce my dear friend and Rabbi of Congregation Beth Shalom, Wilmington, Rabbi Michael Beals, who will offer the Devar Torah this evening.
Tonight is the first day of the Hebrew month of Tammuz, Rosh Chodesh, a perfect time to be celebrating the 86th annual meeting of the Jewish Federation of Delaware, a time of new beginnings, new possibilities, and new blessings. And this week's Torah portion is among the strangest to celebrate my dear congregation Beth Shalom members, outgoing President Richard Levine and incoming President Russ Silberglied. You see, this week's parasha is Korach, taken from the book of Numbers. Rather than celebrating Moses and Aaron's leadership, perhaps a biblical version of Rich and Russ, Korach comes to tear them down. Aleichem Rav Lachem, you have gone too far. Literally, you have too much. Korach publicly claims against his cousins in a hearing of all the people. This is not the type of Torah portion I would have chosen to honor two of the most incredible leaders in our community. But hey, I don't get to choose the dates of these annual meetings. So let's roll with it and see if this Torah portion has anything to teach us in helping President Richard Levine pass on the baton of leadership to President Silberglied. So what then is Moses' comeback to his usurping cousin? After first falling on his face, great stalling practice, we should all try that when we get broadsided at a community meeting, Moses retorts, come morning, the Lord will make known who is his and who is holy and will grant him access to himself. He will grant access to the one he has chosen. Far be it from me to do Monday morning quarterbacking to Moses. Frankly speaking, when I was the subject of a verbal jab in high school, it took an entire day for me to come up with a subtle or suitable retort. And by that time, I'm afraid the train had left the station. But I still think Moses missed an opportunity here. Rather than turning to the collective strength of the people of Israel to counter Korach's challenge, he goes directly to God. Now, true, Moses' approach was effective. God causes the ground to open up and swallow Korach and his merry band of malcontents. Let that be a lesson to anyone opposing Russ Silberglied on the Federation board. Just kidding, I think. But seriously, imagine what more Moses might have gained by mobilizing the people on his side. This could have been a real opportunity for community building, and I think there lies a potential nugget for Russ and his new board. I have delighted in doing my part to build community unity during my 17 plus years of service as rabbi of Congregation Beth Shalom. I have loved supporting our Jewish Federation of Delaware every year, be it through my annual pledge during Super Sunday, manning the phones, or hosting the rotation of Federation Shabbats at Congregation Beth Shalom. Next year by us for the celebration of our 100th birthday. But I think we have not even begun to tap the potential of a true synergy between our Jewish Federation and our Delaware synagogues. The Federation is our great convener, the central address of the Jewish Delaware community. Aside from fundraising, what might it look like to harness a rich, reciprocal relationship between the synagogues and the Federation? If Russ and his board choose to explore this approach, I stand ready to help in any way I can. After watching Richard Levine lead this board successfully during these past 2 years, the last 18 months being very challenging due to the pandemic, Richard has given our federation the proof that it can do anything. His resiliency and leadership have allowed the federation to flourish. And kol hakavod for creating the COVID-19 emergency fund to address the extraordinary needs of our community in this perilous time. You served Congregation Beth Shalom wonderfully as its former board president, and so it's no surprise that you would have flourished as our federation president. I'm so proud of you and so excited that after 17 years of having celebrated your daughter's bat mitzvah, now I get to help officiate your daughter's upcoming wedding. Mazel tov. May you go from chayil to chayil, from strength to strength. I've watched Russ Silberglade shine in so many Jewish leadership roles, from running a lobbying meeting with our small but mighty Delaware delegation with our U.S. Senator during APAC Advocacy Day, to presiding over successful Jewish National Fund breakfast as our local Delaware leader, and beyond the Jewish community by raising awareness for the Marino Rivera Foundation after the terrible hurricane which pummeled Puerto Rico. With the same modesty known only to Moses, I look forward to watching Russ build on Richard's strong foundation and raise our federation to new and even greater heights. To quote my father of blessed memory, I shep naches for all you have achieved. Richard, toda rabah for all you have done for our community, and Russ, toda rabah for all you will do for our community. And aside from whatever help I can offer you, take a page out of this week's Torah portion, and unlike Moses, remember you don't and you shouldn't go it alone. The more you engage the community, starting with the synagogues, to help you fulfill your vision, the stronger you will make our community. Or, in the words of our Federation logo, stronger together. Yasher koach.
That was awesome. Thank you, students and Rabbi Michael, for inspiring us this evening. And now it is my honor to introduce President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Delaware, Mr. Seth Katzen, to share a few words with you.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. Pivot was one of the most common and overused words of 2020. However, this word truly epitomizes what Jewish Federation of Delaware has been doing since the pandemic began. While the past 15 months have certainly been challenging, we have actively engaged our community through ongoing virtual programming and enhanced communications for Federation to remain consistently connected and continually in touch. Federation funds and supports a community-wide network of organizations that feed, clothe, comfort, and rescue people in need. We also inspire, educate, and connect people to their Jewish identity. While many communities across the country experience continued declines in their annual campaigns, our 2020 campaign has reached a record high from the prior year, an unbelievable achievement by itself, but doing so during a pandemic is truly a testament to our staff, leadership, and generosity of our vibrant community. It is with great pride that I confirm that the 2021 annual campaign is on pace to meet and quite possibly exceed last year's historic campaign, with a tangible opportunity of reaching $2 million for the first time in our history. One gift to the annual campaign makes it possible for us to simultaneously help our most vulnerable neighbors, build our Jewish community, stand with the people of Israel, and reach out to our Jewish family around the world. While the annual campaign serves as the community checking account to meet today's needs, the Jewish Fund for the Future, Federation's planned giving and endowment arm, serves as the community savings account to ensure tomorrow. The total managed assets of our endowment exceeded $34 million at the end of 2020, another record-setting level for our community. At this time, I would like to introduce you to a short video that captures the essence of tonight's theme, Powered by You with Gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
I hope that they will continue my story.
I can't believe I'm here.
Thank you to the Federation staff who are passionate about our sacred mission, working hand in hand with our dedicated lay leadership. I wish to thank outgoing board chair Richard Levine for leading our community during these unprecedented times. Who could have predicted what has occurred the past 2 years under Richard's leadership? However, he faced adversity head-on with his determination, passion, and ability to inspire our community. Thank you, Richard, for living and leading by example. I also welcome incoming board chair, Russ Silberglied, and look forward to working with him, as well as the officers and board of directors, in fulfilling our mission of improving the world. Federation's tagline, "We grow stronger together," is more than a simple catchphrase. It epitomizes the importance of collective action and collective responsibility in everything we do, both internally and externally. Thank you for the great honor of allowing me to serve this community for the past 11 years. You continue to inspire me every day, and know that we are making a difference. Toda Rabbah.
Thank you, Seth, for leading us through this year full of opportunities. You have served us well, and we are eternally grateful. So, do you know where to go if someone you know or love needs emotional support, counseling, crisis management, elder care, or nutrition, to name a few? If you guessed Jewish Family Services, you are correct. Located on the Weinberg campus next to the JCC Fitness Center, Jewish Family Service is available for you whenever you need them. Now, our next speaker is also a very dear friend and outstanding community lay leader, who, when assumed the position of chairman of the board for Jewish Federation of Delaware, he had no idea what this year of crisis management would bring. In true fashion, Richard Levine wasted no time in rallying the support needed to bring our community through COVID in a stellar way. So without further ado, I present Richard Levine, our outgoing chairman of the board, to deliver his final report.
Good evening. Faced with the challenge of writing this evening's comments, my last public speech as chair of the Jewish Federation of Delaware, I, as I have done in the past, sought inspiration by sitting for several hours in the conference room of the Jewish Federation of Delaware on the Weinberg Jewish Community Campus. Looking up at the pictures on the wall of the 34 men and women who preceded me as president, now chair, of Federation, I determined that my speech will not repeat any of the comments in my recent article in the June J-Voice Monthly, in which I outlined my view of the challenges and achievements of Jewish Federation of Delaware and our Jewish community during the past 2 years of my chairmanship, and hinted at opportunities yet to come. I will also not repeat any of the remarks made this evening by Federation's president and CEO, Seth Katzen, or in the video which we all just watched, or in the video which will conclude this evening's meeting, but will instead use my final remarks as chair to talk about people who have been part of my service to Jewish Federation of Delaware, both present and past. In doing so, I recognize the obvious limitations of time and of my own memory will not enable me to properly acknowledge all of those who deserve to be acknowledged, and I apologize in advance to those who I fail to mention. As I alluded to earlier, the Jewish Federation of Delaware has had 34 presidents in its 85 years of existence. As one who was not born or raised in Delaware, but came here in 1971, I have had the amazing privilege to have been on a first-name basis with 26 of the 34 past presidents, and to have served on the board of directors or otherwise worked with at least 18 of them, including all of those still living during the 30 years I have served on the Federation board beginning in 1983. In particular, I want to recognize Bernard Siegel and Ben Epstein, both of blessed memory, who got me involved in the work of Federation and who I will always consider as my mentors. It was Paul Fine, who I expect is attending this meeting, under whom I first served on the Federation board in my role as president of Congregation Beth Shalom, and it was Paul Fine, as chair of the nominating committee, who subsequently nominated me to become a member of the Federation board and vice president under Marty Mann, who then appointed me to be co-chair of the annual campaign in 1986, and who has also been a mentor to me for these many years. In my article in the J-Voice Monthly, I observed that while past JFD presidents depart from office, they do not typically disappear from community service, but continue to serve as lifetime members of the Federation Board of Directors, serve on board committees, chair board committees, and help with fundraising. In that regard, it is notable that during the last 2 years, I have spoken or met personally or virtually with all 17 living past presidents who have graciously shared their wisdom and experience with me. In my later remarks, I will speak in detail about 3 past presidents whose service to JFD these past 2 years and before, and whose personal assistance to me these 2 years deserves special mention. I already mentioned both Paul Fine and Marty Mann, who have attended meetings of the Federation Board of Directors this year. I want to next mention Toni Young, who was the first woman president of Jewish Federation and served from 1993 to 1996, and who moved to New York City several years ago following the death of her husband Stuart, but still made time to lead the fundraising efforts of the Jewish Historical Society of Delaware, about which I will say more later. Suzanne Barton Grant, or Susie, was president of Federation from 2007 to 2009 and serves on the Board of Trustees of Jewish Federation of North America, the national parent organization of Jewish Federation of Delaware, and continues her longtime service as chair of the Investment Committee of the Jewish Fund for the Future, the Endowment Committee of the Jewish Federation of Delaware. Likewise, Jack Blumenfeld, who was president from 2013 to 2015, continues to serve the community as chair of the Jewish Fund for the Future. Immediate predecessor, Bill Wagner, relocated to be with his family in Virginia and faced some health issues during the first year of my term, but has rebounded to share his financial wisdom and experience as a member of the Executive Committee, Finance Committee, Allocations Committee, and co-chair of the Nominating Committee. I want to move on to recognize and thank my fellow officers and board members and the community volunteers who have enabled Jewish Federation of Delaware to carry out its mission during these challenging 2 years. Special thanks to Vice President David Margulies, who is stepping off the board after many years of service for his recent help as co-chair of the COVID-19 emergency campaign and as co-chair of the Jewish Education Initiative. Special thanks also to Lisa Dadone-Weiner, who is also circulating off of the board after many years of service as a chair and co-chair of the annual campaign. Also circulating off of the board and executive committee is Jan Goodman, who has generously shared her time and wisdom with us. David Udoff, who has diligently represented Sussex County on our board and served as a member of the J-Voice committee, is also leaving the board. I want to especially recognize the efforts of Bob Horonsky, our treasurer, who has discharged the duties of treasurer and chaired the Finance Committee and co-chaired the Allocations Committee with Vice Chair Mitch Steinberg. Special thanks also to Vice Chair Russell Silberglied, about whom I will say more later, who co-chaired our last 2 annual campaigns, first with Lisa Dadone-Weiner and this year with Carol Marcus Stape, who will be installed as a new Vice Chair of Federation later this evening. As important as the officers and directors are to the success of Jewish Federation, it is truly our professional staff that makes it all happen. Most of you know our President and Chief Executive Officer, Seth Katzen, and our Senior Vice President of Financial Resources Development, Wendy Berger. They are the public face of Jewish Federation of Delaware and the engines that let us roar. Seth's leadership, writing, and communication skills have elevated Jewish Federation of Delaware to new levels of recognition. His dedication to Federation has no bounds, and he barely missed a day at the office during the entire COVID-19 pandemic, and receives and responds to phone calls and emails on virtually a 24/7 basis. Seth is a consummate professional. For me, Seth has been a valued advisor, a sounding board, a trusted confidant, a compass, and truly my right arm. Thank you, Seth. Wendy has been the predominant professional player with respect to fundraising, allocations, and programming. Her relationships with our donor base are meaningful and sincere, and she has led our community to record-breaking fundraising during each of my 2 years as chair, making me look good when it is Wendy who deserves the lion's share of the credit. Her organizational skills, computer skills, and dedication to detail with respect to board and committee meetings are legendary to those of us who serve on Federation board committees. Thank you, Wendy. Special recognition is also especially due to Terry Kuzo, our controller, who has hardly missed a day at work during the past 2 years. It is Terry, with accounting associate Ariel Wallace, who handles the cash, the contributions, balances the numbers, and pays the bills for Federation. Rabbi Ellen Bernhardt is our Federation's Jewish Community Relations Committee Director and Community Chaplain. Rabbi Ellen has also been instrumental in development of the Jewish Education Portal on the Jewish Federation website, which identifies local Jewish educational opportunities and links to broader educational opportunities outside of Delaware. It is J.D. Schweers, who is editor of J-Voice Monthly, Federation's award-winning publication. Philly Miller is Federation's outreach coordinator, in charge of the PJ Library, Shalom Baby, and One Happy Camper programs. She also manages Connect Young Adult Network. Shari Dim, who is Federation's full-time Creative Jewish Legacy Program coordinator for several years, continues to assist on a part-time basis, even while she is now the executive director of Congregation Beth Shalom. Gina Kozicki is Federation's associate endowment director and has helped manage the Jewish Fund for the Future for many years. For any of you who have visited or called the Jewish Federation office, you will be familiar with Dana Warwick, our office manager and advertising representative. She is the friendly face and voice of Federation, greeting you at the door or by telephone. I'm happy to let you know that Dana has recently become the proud mother of Vivienne Kate, born just 21 days ago. The final JFD staff person I want to recognize is Nicole Terranova. Her official title is Events and Marketing Coordinator, in which role she assists Wendy Berger. More significantly, Nicole is the genius behind Federation's electronic communications, coordinating our virtual programs, including this evening's annual meeting. Somehow, Nicole rescues all of us with limited electronic skills and has made our few live but mostly virtual community events work during these past 2 years. Thank you, Nicole. I want to recognize and thank the lay and professional leaders of our Federation agencies and affiliates. It is through their efforts and the organizations they operate that Federation fulfills its mission of serving the community. Thank you, Danny Haas, President of the Siegel JCC, and Ivy Harlev, Chief Executive Officer, who held the fort and provided the maximum permissible services to the community during the past year. Thanks to Norman Pernick, the Board President of Jewish Family Services of Delaware, and Basha Silberman, its Chief Executive Officer, who led JFS to actually provide increased services to the community during the pandemic. Thank you to Donna Harlev, Board President of the Kutz Senior Living Campus, and Felicia Alderson, its Chief Executive Officer, who have steadily protected their vulnerable residents and navigated the Kutz Home and Lodge Lane through the twists and turns of COVID-19 pandemic. Also, thank you to Iris Vinegar and Joyce Staffman, co-presidents of the Kutz Senior Living Campus Auxiliary, which continued its support of residents and raised funds for PPE and ovens at the Kutz Home. Likewise, thank you to Alan Gilbert, the president of Hillel at University of Delaware, and Donna Schwartz, its executive director, who managed to continuously provide essential services to Jewish students at the University of Delaware despite the pandemic. Thank you, Jared Geller, the chair of Albert Einstein Academy Board of Directors, and its new head of school, Jerry Kissick, and her predecessor, Rabbi Jeremy Winokur. with all of whom Jewish Federation has partnered to maintain an outstanding Jewish education experience to dozens of our community children during the past 2 years of my presidency. Thank you to Steve Gonzer, the chair of the Helena Wynn Preston Holocaust Education Committee, about whom you will hear more later this evening. And thank you to Rabbi Peter Grumbacher and to Jerry Resnick, who, as co-presidents of the Jewish Historical Society of Delaware, together with the tireless efforts of Richard David Levin, led a fundraising campaign and relocation of the Jewish Historical Society from the basement of the Delaware Historical Society to a multi-floor adjacent facility in the historic Cox House located at 515 Market Street in Wilmington, and also to Diane Wolf, who has succeeded Peter and Jerry as the president of the Jewish Historical Society and will lead implementation of the new facility. All the foregoing people I have mentioned have been great partners, and I regret that I did not get to spend more personal time with each of you. Another group of essential community leaders that I wish to thank, with whom I was also unable to spend the time they and their organizations deserve, are our synagogue presidents. Alan Blyer of Adas Kodesh Shalometh, Marla Cooper and her predecessor, Ralph Downard, at Congregation Beth Shalom in Wilmington, Jennifer Steinberg at Congregation Beth Emeth, Arlene Johnson, who is also a member of the Federation Board at Temple Beth El, and Caroline Schwartz at Congregation Beth Shalom in Dover, and Joel Simon of Seaside Jewish Community in Rehoboth Beach. I do not have time to separately acknowledge the rabbis and cantors who serve these organizations, but want to thank Rabbi Ellen Bernhardt, who is a member of DEREC, the Delaware Rabbis and Cantors Association, and who uses the DEREC monthly meetings to create a bridge between Delaware's rabbis and cantors and the Federation. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 former presidents of Jewish Federation whose contributions following their presidencies, and in particular their contributions to my 2 years as chair, merit special mention. I will discuss them in reverse order of their presidencies. Connie Sugarman completed her term as president of Jewish Federation of Delaware in 2017, but never really stopped serving. She immediately became my co-chair of the Creative Jewish Legacy Program, of which she became the sole chair when I became president of JFD in 2019. It was Connie who chaired the nominating committee that nominated me as the 35th president of Federation, as she filled in for Bill Wagner as nominating committee chair, while Bill had moved out of town to be with his family and was facing medical complications. Connie continued to serve as co-chair of the nominating committee this year, along with Bill, who happily was able to resume his role as nominating committee chair. As if this was not enough, Connie subsequently co-chaired with David Margulies the successful COVID-19 Emergency Fund and the Jewish Education Initiative, as well as serving as a member of the Executive, Finance, and Allocation Committees. Despite her travels to and from Israel to visit with her family, Connie virtually never missed a meeting and was always available to me as a sounding board and confidant. Thank you, Connie, for your help and dedication to our community. You are simply amazing. Robin Kaufman-Sarin was president of Jewish Federation of Delaware from 2011 to 2013. Since that time, Robin has served as co-chair along with Arnie Kane of our Facilities Management Board, the Federation committee that oversees the management of the extensive grounds and buildings on the Weinberg Jewish Community Campus on Garden of Eden Road. This position requires multiple monthly meetings, campus visits, document reviews, budget reviews, and much more, not to even mention the special challenges of overseeing operations of the campus in 2020 and 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Robin also serves on the Federation's Finance Committee and previously served on the Allocations Committee for many years. She is the Delaware representative to the Intermediate Federations of Jewish Federations of North America, and last year served as Delaware chair of the Human Services Relief Matching Fund, which raised over $200,000 in supplemental fundraising for our Delaware social service agencies, including over $60,000 in Jewish Federation of North America matching funds. Robin is a long-time dear personal friend and a great example of service to Jewish Federation in our community, and a very recent but exceedingly young grandmother. The final former president I wish to specifically recognize for her extraordinary efforts over the past 2 years and for many years before that was president of Federation from 1998 to 2000. I am referring to Barbara Schoenberg. Prior to her term as president, Barbara had served Federation in virtually every capacity. In the 20 years since her term as president ended, Barbara has continued to dedicate her heart, her time, her special expertise as a certified public accountant, and her institutional knowledge to service to Jewish Federation, as well as to several of its agencies. During my term, she chaired the Audit Committee, served on the Finance and Allocations Committees, and served on the Jewish Fund for the Future Investment Committee. She has also worked behind the scenes to assist our Federation staff and current committee chairs with respect to financial matters and institutional history. Barbara is also an indefatigable fundraiser for Jewish Federation. A quick story. At this year's Super Sunday, I called and closed 30 donors. As I personally bragged a little of my accomplishment to Wendy Berger, I was promptly informed that Barbara had already closed over 90 donors. Barbara has not been shy about unselfishly sharing her experience, her guidance, her advice, and her opinions with me and others. Both I and our community owe Barbara our gratitude for her efforts to keep me, my predecessors, and our community agenda on target. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you again, Barbara. You will all be relieved to know I have only 2 more thank yous left. Being chair of Jewish Federation is not always a walk in the park. There are highs and lows, things that go right and things that go wrong, meetings that are scheduled and meetings that are not scheduled in advance, meetings that end on time and meetings that go late, emails and calls that are wonderful to receive and many that are not. Events that we can anticipate and events that we can't. I want to acknowledge and thank Lynn Ellick for her flexibility and personal support as my life partner for all these past 2 years. It is Lynn who has had to constantly put up with my mood swings and scheduling challenges, and who has handled it with grace and affection. My final thank you goes to all of you who have participated in tonight's meeting, and to all the rest of those who constitute the Jewish community of Delaware and the Brandywine Valley. It is you who I have had the honor to serve for most of the past 38 years, and particularly the past 2 years. And it is your support that has empowered what those of us who serve the Jewish Federation of Delaware are able to accomplish every day. It has been my good fortune and blessing to have had the opportunity to have been your president and chair these past 2 years. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you, Richard. You will surely be missed. Please don't be a stranger. Well, here we are in the beautiful Kutz Senior Living Campus. The birds are singing. The wind is blowing. What could be better? While this year might have been isolated for our residents, the staff and nurses provided extra love, kindness, and dependability to get your loved ones safely on the other side of the virus. Now, as they are vaccinated, life is starting to look a little more normal. Smiles are returning to their faces as they are able to enjoy some friendship and sunshine. I would like to now ask another colleague, friend, and former chairman of the Jewish Federation of Delaware Board of Directors to present to you the nominating committee report and installation of new board officers and the board of directors. Mr. Bill Wagner.
Hi, this is Bill Wagner, 2021 Federation Nominating Committee Chair. Thank you to Connie Sugarman, Committee Co-Chair and my partner in the process. Also, a big thank you to members of the Nominating Committee, Alicia Kaplan, Karen Legume, Liz O'Neill, Gene Schoenberg, Wendy Berger, Seth Katzen, and Richard Levine. The nominations for officer are Board Chair, Russell Silberglied, Vice Chairs, Carol Marcus Stape, Jerome Nocklis, Mitch Steinberg, Secretary, Gail Szymanski, Assistant Secretary, Hetty Mintz, Treasurer, Bob Horansky, Assistant Treasurer, Diana Kane. Directors with term expiring 2022, Susan Grant, Alan Horowitz, Marty Lesner, Connie Sugarman. Directors with term expiring 2023, Arlene Johnson, Michelle Silberglied. Directors with terms expiring in 2024, Jennifer Goldstein, Herb Conowitz, Jesse Miller, Zach Plattis, Sarah Rosen, Josh Schoenberg, Yoav Tal, and Ned Weinberger. And Richard Levine, past board chair, ex officio member of the executive committee. Federation members, please vote using the Zoom poll that will appear on your screen. Thank you for voting. The nominations are approved. Congratulations and welcome to our 2021-2022 officers and board of directors. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Bill, Connie, and committee. We appreciate your time and dedication to the Federation and our community. So did you know there's another side to Cook Senior Living Campus? I'm standing here in front of Lodge Lane Assisted Living. And much like the Cooks, lodges had their share of isolation this year. However, they too are now vaccinated and seeing the light of day. I would like you to join me now in welcoming back Mr. Richard Levine, who will pass the gavel to our incoming chair, one of the most dedicated people I know, my friend and colleague, Mr. Russ Silberglied.
It is now my happy privilege and honor to symbolically hand the gavel of the chairmanship of Jewish Federation of Delaware to my just elected successor, Russell Silberglied. As I wrote in the June J Voice Monthly, I consider Russell's successorship to me as JFD chair to be the primary accomplishment of my chairmanship. Over the past 2 years, Russ has served as vice chair of Federation, co-chair of both the annual campaign and the allocations committee, the most demanding volunteer positions in our federation. Russ, along with his wife and family, lives a Jewish life every day in every way with dedication to the mission of the Jewish Federation. I am so honored and pleased to turn over the chairmanship of the Jewish Federation of Delaware to him with total confidence that he will move our Jewish Federation and community forward. Here you go, Russ.
Hi, I'm Russ Silberglied, and I am humbled to accept the role as your next board chair of Jewish Federation of Delaware. Over the years, this community has been blessed with some truly exceptional presidents, as we called the role until last year. You'll hear some more about them in his remarks later on from Richard Levine. They have been an inspiration, and we wouldn't be the Delaware Jewish community that we are today if it weren't for them. I can only hope to live up to their examples, and I thank you for putting your trust in me. We all as a community owe a special thank you to Richard Levine. Few have ever had to steer our community like Richard has with the COVID crisis, which has lasted for more than half of his term. Now, if you can put your mind back 13 months, our beneficiary agencies had to close their doors, and at the same time, we had no idea if we would be able to raise funds to meet their needs, given the state of the market and everybody's very understandable concerns about their businesses and their jobs. With Richard at the helm, as well as the steady hand of Seth and all of his staff, we navigated those uncharted waters. And the result was not one, but 2 successful emergency campaigns, as well as a record annual campaign, thereby giving our people and our institutions of the Delaware Jewish community what they needed not only to survive, but to thrive. And all the while, we seamlessly transitioned to a virtual platform and kept the community connected. Richard, thank you very much for all that you did to make this possible. I'm often asked, why federation? And also, do we still need a federation system these days? My answer in any year would have been a resounding yes. But in this year, in particular, we have shown the power of federation. I mentioned the 2 COVID emergency campaigns a minute ago. Well, one of them was from JFNA, Jewish Federations of North America. It was called the Human Services Relief Matching Fund, and it brought in almost $150,000 right here into our local Delaware community. And Delaware very recently has been able to participate in JFNA's emergency campaign for Israeli victims of terror, who our hearts and our thoughts are with. Just like we've done in the past for disasters. Think of the flooding of the Houston Jewish community a few years ago. And also, given the whole world's transition to virtual programming during the pandemic, we were able to leverage an unbelievable amount of programming that would otherwise not have been available. These included terrific national programs and partnerships with individual federations, such as our events with Michael Solomonov and with Barry Weiss. But federation isn't only about emergencies. The amazing programs and projects of JFNA and the Jewish Agency in Israel and in overseas are many, varied, and simply inspiring. You can be proud that your dollars go in part to fund these unbelievable programs and projects. I think it's safe to say that most of even those who are very involved in Jewish Federation of Delaware don't know very much about these programs. Well, we're going to make it a point in the coming years to make sure our community learns more about them, because I know that you are going to like what you see. And of course, we are stronger together with our fabulous agencies and also other local Jewish organizations. I couldn't be more proud of what each of them accomplish on a daily basis. It is truly an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to partner with them and all they do for our community. Now, we of course have some challenges ahead of us. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and that was the case even before the last few weeks. We live in an age of extreme polarization, and that unfortunately includes views about our beloved Israel. And of course, we are just coming out of well over a year of having COVID turn our lives upside down, and many still feeling the pain of isolation. You're not going to find any easy answers from me. But we can, in Delaware, focus on a few things. First of all, on the continuing of the Delaware way, which lets us talk to each other with respect and interact with chesed. There is no better example than our Federation Shabbat, where we annually come together from all of the synagogues and Jewish denominations. And indeed, the fact that our Delaware rabbis and cantors come together in Derech. Jews from outside of Delaware are usually very surprised to learn about these joint endeavors, and we should be proud of them. We can also focus on increasing our engagement and our touch points with everyone in the Jewish community, as well as increasing Jewish education. I know we'll meet our challenges and our goals because we have an outstanding board of directors and executive committee, which includes some brand new faces that I am excited to welcome. So I'm looking forward to a great year, and I thank you very much.
Richard, again, thank you. And Russ, thank you for your vision and dedication in bringing us out of virtual reality into the brighter days ahead. I look forward to serving with you and the entire board as we enter a new chapter in the Jewish community of Delaware. I know you will do great things. So, this place must look familiar to most of you, maybe from your children attending preschool or camp, or maybe swimming programs or indoor pool, outdoor pool. The summer is great at the JCC. Maybe you've even attended a fundraiser or a life cycle event here, worked out in the fitness center, Whatever you're looking for in the way of connecting to the Jewish community and building friends that become family most likely happens at the Siegel Jewish Community Center. Come check it out. It's a beautiful campus and it's a breath of fresh air. Our next presenter is a community leader extraordinaire. Her touch reaches across all ages and organizations. It gives me great pleasure to introduce an exemplary woman, Ms. Carol Rothschild, who will share opening remarks for the Stephen J. Rothschild Volunteer of the Year Award. Carol will be followed by Mr. David Lee Preston, son of Holocaust survivor and a true woman of valor, Helena Wind Preston. David will offer a tribute and present the award to the well-deserving Steve Gonzer. Take it away, Carol.
My husband, Stephen, died much too soon in 2004, but he managed to accomplish so much in a relatively short life. He co-founded the Wilmington office of Skadden Arps, was the office managing partner for 25 years, and had a very distinguished legal career. Steve believed very strongly in community service and supporting those in need. Therefore, beyond just becoming a leader in his chosen profession, Steve also led many charities and other institutions outside the law. Among the many organizations he led included, but not limited to, he was president of United Way, he was president of the Kutz Home, and he was president of the Delaware Art Museum. He also served as campaign financial chair for Senator Tom Carper. Equally important, he was a mentor to many young leaders in our broader community. His desire to give back professionally and personally to social causes carried over to education, about which he was passionate. He taught law as an adjunct professor at both Georgetown University and the University of Pennsylvania. He also served as a trustee of the University of Delaware. Above all else, he valued support for the vulnerable, be it the aged or the very young. He always wanted to give back to a community for the many blessings it had given him. And while his family and I, of course, miss Steve every single day, we take great comfort in knowing that his memory lives on with this honor and stays ever present with us through the selfless and tireless work of people like Steve Gonzer, who inspire us all. I can tell you that Steve would be so proud that an honor bearing his name is going to a person like you. Thank you. And now it's my honor to introduce David Lee Preston, who will give Steve Gonzer his reward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Carol. Helena Wind Preston, the daughter of a poor Hasidic watchmaker in a little town in the Carpathian Mountains, survived 14 months hiding in the sewers beneath the city of Lviv. Eventually, she studied in the Teachers Institute of the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. While still mastering English, she was one of the first survivors to speak publicly, when the seminary sent her around the country to tell her story, appearing at least 36 times in 7 states, beginning in 1949. After graduation, she married a DuPont engineer who himself had survived Auschwitz and Buchenwald, and she devoted the rest of her life to educating Jewish children at Beth Shalom, at Wilmington Gratz, and at Albert Einstein Academy. She was Delaware's spokesperson for the victims and survivors, and she started a Holocaust Education Committee, and when she died in 1982, the other members voted to name it after her. In the 1970s, when the committee was still in its infancy, when my mother was lobbying Delaware's legislators and governor to commemorate the Holocaust and to support teaching it in schools, a young man whose own relatives had lived in the Carpathian Mountains not far from my mother's town reached out to her. Steve Gonzer visited with her many times in our home, and she translated letters he had inherited, sent from relatives in Eastern Europe. As Steve wrote in 2007, somewhere in the universe, among the millions of Jews murdered during the Holocaust, hover the ashes and remains of my aunts, uncle, and more than 50 cousins. Helena helped me walk through some of my own personal nightmares about the Holocaust. Decades later, building upon the extraordinary vision and leadership of Regina Kerr Alonso, Steve Gonzer has spearheaded monumental accomplishments as chair of the Helena Wynn Preston Holocaust Education Committee of the Jewish Federation of Delaware. Steve's passion and dedication led him to interview survivors, liberators, and righteous Gentiles in Delaware to provide an incontrovertible historical record. No denying Delawareans bear witness to the Holocaust, an 8-hour and 15-minute documentary film he created, directed, and produced, along with a 42-page user guide. Among the survivors interviewed were committee members Dorothy Finger, Ann Jaffe, and Regina's father, Arnold Kerr. Watch the trailer and learn more at nodenying.org. The need for Holocaust education has never been more urgent. Last year, a survey showed that among 11,000 Americans aged 18 to 39, 63% did not know that 6 million Jews were murdered. Steve's crowning achievement came on July 23rd last year, when his tireless lobbying of legislators, along with Ann Jaffe addressing the House and Senate about her own survival, culminated in Governor John Carney signing into law House Bill 318, requiring schools to teach the Holocaust in grades 6 through 12. By developing a curriculum on the Holocaust and genocide, the governor said, we are sharing with future generations our commitment to opposing hatred and intolerance wherever it exists. Never again. My mother would be immensely proud of her pupil today, and I am honored and humbled to present the 2021 Stephen Rothschild Jewish Federation of Delaware Volunteer of the Year Award to my dear friend, Steve Gonzer.
Speaking in front of a camera is definitely not one of my better attributes, yet I'm truly honored to be the recipient of the Stephen J. Rothschild Volunteer of the Year Award. I thank David Preston for his kind words. David's mother and I met more than 30 years ago, and Helena Wynn Preston was instrumental in sparking my passion to become a volunteer. And here I stand 30 years later. I would be remiss if I didn't share this honor with all the volunteers on the Helena Wynn Preston Holocaust Education Committee who have devoted their hearts and souls to ensuring that the horrors of the Holocaust never happen again. And I finally must give many thanks to the Jewish Federation of Delaware, who has supported us for more than 40 years, and especially Seth Katzen, Regina Kerr Alonso, and Gina Kozicki. We have accomplished much over the last 40 years. We're most proud of the fact that on July 23rd, 2020, the governor of the state of Delaware signed HB 318, which mandated Holocaust education be taught to all Delaware students in grades 6 through 12. Again, many thanks to everyone for this award, and I really appreciate it.
Congratulations, Steve. And thank you, Carol and David, for your meaningful remarks and tribute. It's always fun to look back at the previous year and relive our accomplishments and the times we've shared as a community. Even though mostly virtual, we had an amazing year. I invite you now to watch the Federation's Year in Review video montage.
Federation's work and impact in the community are critical. It provides essential long-term and short-term services, as well as educational programs for all ages. Federation advances Jewish values and causes, including strong support for Israel. And Federation's commitment to Tikkun Olam touches me deeply, as it did my parents and grandparents. Its dedicated and talented staff, along with its many volunteers and members, bring people together for learning and engaging, for giving back, for coming together, and for making our community and world a better place, now and in the future.
Even in this time, when it seems like all is lost, I see you from a distance.
In the Albert Einstein Academy, my grandsons went to school there, and they embraced us. It was a wonderful, magical experience. And as far as grandson Avery's concerned, receiving a scholarship from the Federation is allowing him to pursue his dreams of maritime transportation at SUNY New York. And we're very grateful to the Federation and everyone in it.
It makes me immensely proud that we support over 65 countries around the world. Israel in particular is very important to me, and it makes me feel so happy and proud that we help with so many things for Israel. For instance, for people that want to make Aliyah to Israel, we support Aliyah. We support the Birthright program. We support the Ethiopian Jews, and our partners in Arad, our sister city, Arad. We support a lot of events and programs for Arad, so it just makes me immensely proud that we do so much for Israel as well.
The impact that it's had on my life, helping other people, learning, meeting other people, seeing how much Jewish Federation cares about so many different areas of things that need to be addressed. It's just been a pleasure for me to be part of working with Jewish Federation and especially Women's Philanthropy.
For me, it's all about the friendships that I've made. The majority of my friends I've met through the Federation, so for that I am very thankful for it.
It's really been a great sense of warmth and charity and giving back, both for us to Federation and Federation to the Jewish community. So we're proud to be involved with it and continually do so and feel strongly and passionate about it.
While living in New Jersey, I worked on a teen philanthropy initiative, and I approached Jewish Federation with the idea of starting a similar project in Delaware. The response was yes, and with enthusiasm. And this past year, we had a great success with the program, as our teens were an honoree for the Governor's Youth Volunteer Service Awards, which is really exciting. After that experience and getting to know the wonderful people at Federation and the important and impactful work that they do, I couldn't have been more thrilled when I had the opportunity to join Federation staff as the PJ Library Coordinator. For me, being a part of Federation means being part of something greater than myself. I'm so proud to be a part of Jewish Federation of Delaware.
The Jewish Federation and its member agencies have been an essential extension of the Horowitz family since the moment we arrived in Wilmington in 1997 as a family of 3. Before long, we were a family of 5, chasing soccer balls in the gym, thriving in Stacy's case, directing at one stage the Early Childhood Center, and attending Einstein. Board leadership positions at the JFS, the JCC, and Federation followed.
The Federation and its programs have helped to define and enrich over 2 decades of the Horowitz family experience in Delaware, and for that we are forever grateful.
It is our honor and privilege to be able to support the Jewish Federation of Delaware in every way we can, and we look forward to making more memories and doing whatever we can to help our unique and beautiful community thrive.
What a fantastic video. Well, everyone, all good things must come to an end. And so I would like to again congratulate our Stephen J. Rothschild Volunteer of the Year Award winner, Mr. Steve Gonser. Richard, thank you again for your service as our board chair, and thank you too, all of you, our outstanding and outgoing board members. It has been a pleasure working with you. Russ, as incoming board chair, and to all of our new board members, I truly look forward to working with you and being energized by your excitement. Don't forget, you can find our annual impact report to the community and the videos from tonight on our website, shalomdelaware.org. And finally, thanks to all of you for joining us virtually for our 86th annual meeting. And here's to sharing the 87th annual meeting together and in person. My last thank you, and she doesn't know it, is to Nicole Terranova, who has followed me around all day and put up with my nonsense to make tonight pleasurable for all of you. Be well and good night.